Nobody in downtown Los Angeles said Jun Sok Kong was broken. People said ruthless. People said untouchable. People said deadly. Walk into any Korean restaurant on Western Avenue, mention his name, and watch how fast conversations die. The syndicate controlled everything from the ports to the pills flooding college campuses. Jun Sok Kong built that empire with blood and silence. But inside the inner circles, whispers traveled faster than bullets. Impotent. A year earlier, a freeway crash outside Santa Monica nearly ended his life. Rivals called it an accident. Doctors at Cedars-Sinai called it permanent damage. Surgeons used colder language. Irreversible dysfunction. Power remained. Money multiplied. Territory expanded across the West Coast. But manhood, according to the world Jun Sok ruled, had vanished. Models from Seoul. Influencers from Beverly Hills. Escorts flown in from New York City. Every attempt ended the same way. Failure. Silence. Laughter behind closed doors. Jun Sok buried the shame beneath violence and reputation. Anyone who hinted at weakness disappeared. A low-level dealer made a joke about soft leadership at a card game in Koreatown. They found him 3 days later in the Los Angeles River, hands missing. The message was clear. Respect stayed. Fear multiplied. But at night, alone in the penthouse overlooking downtown, Jun Sok stared at his reflection and saw nothing but failure. Doctors offered solutions. Pills. Injections. Experimental procedures that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Nothing worked. The body refused to respond. No matter how beautiful the woman. No matter how willing. No matter how much money changed hands. Dead below the waist. That's what the last surgeon said before Jun Sok broke his jaw. Psychologically, you're blocking yourself. Physically, the trauma is permanent. Accept it. Acceptance wasn't in Jun Sok's vocabulary. Violence was. Brielle Carter arrived in Los Angeles from Atlanta carrying student debt, a nursing license, and zero tolerance for men who confused intimidation with authority. The temporary night shift position at Pacific Crest Private Medical Wing paid well enough to keep her afloat. Rich clients. Confidential cases. No questions asked about who walked through those doors. Brielle didn't care about their secrets. She cared about rent. Room V1209 was supposed to be empty according to the assignment sheet. Instead, Brielle found a man sitting upright on the hospital bed. Arms covered in ink that looked expensive. Eyes cold enough to freeze blood. Jaw clenched like violence lived behind his teeth. 2 men in black suits stood near the door. Security or killers? Probably both. The patient stared at her like she'd just made a fatal mistake. What are you staring at? Jun Sok snapped. Most nurses would apologize. Back out. Call for a supervisor. Brielle glanced at the chart in her hand, then back at him. Unimpressed. Room assignment is wrong, Brielle said flatly. And attitude doesn't fix injuries. The room froze. Nobody spoke to Jun Sok Kong that way. Not advisors. Not allies. Certainly not hospital staff. Security shifted toward her. Tension thickened like smoke. One of the men in black suits reached inside his jacket. Jun Sok raised a hand slightly, the universal signal for wait. His eyes stayed locked on Brielle. She didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. Just stood there holding that clipboard like she'd seen worse than him. Then something unexpected happened. Laughter. Low. Bitter. Almost mocking. A nurse with courage, Jun Sok said slowly. Dangerous combination. Brielle set the clipboard on the counter near the sink. What's dangerous is arrogance, she replied. And arrogance bleeds like everyone else. The security guard by the door actually took a step back. Nobody talked to the boss like this. Ever. Jun Sok should have ended it right there. One word and Brielle Carter's nursing career, and possibly her life, would be over. Instead, he waved his hand dismissively. Wrong room. Fine. Leave. Brielle turned toward the door. That's when hospital protocol kicked in. She noticed the IV bag hanging crooked on the pole. The line kinked. Flow restricted. Her training wouldn't let her walk away. Brielle stepped closer to the bed. Your IV is compromised. Let me fix it. Jun Sok should have refused. Instead, he watched her approach. Brielle's hands moved efficiently. Professional. She adjusted the IV pole, straightened the line, checked the flow rate. Her fingers brushed his forearm for maybe 3 seconds. That's when it happened. Heat. Sudden, intense, undeniable, surging through June Sok's body like electricity after a year of complete numbness. Not pain, not anger, something else, something impossible, something he hadn't felt since before the crash. His breath caught, eyes widened slightly. Brielle finished adjusting the IV and stepped back, completely unaware of what just happened. Flows corrected. You'll metabolize the medication properly now. June Sok yanked his arm away like she'd burned him. Fury masked the panic flooding his chest. Get out, he said through clenched teeth. Brielle raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. She picked up her clipboard and walked toward the door. Security will escort you out of this wing, June Sok barked. Double the guards. Nobody enters this room without clearance. The door closed behind her. June Sok sat alone, heart racing, staring at the spot where her fingers had touched his skin. Impossible. Doctors said permanent, but his body just responded to a stranger. Before we continue with what happens next, subscribe to Tales by Wave so you never miss a story. Like this video if you're already hooked, and comment below which country you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs a story this intense. Now, let's see what June Sok does next. The medical staff whispered all night. The black nurse insulted the Korean kingpin and survived. Not just survived, walked out with her job intact and her head held high. By morning, everyone on the night shift knew Brielle Carter's name. Some admired her courage, most thought she was reckless. A few wondered if she understood how close she'd come to disappearing. Brielle didn't care about any of it. She finished her shift, drove back to her studio apartment in Koreatown, and slept like nothing happened. Because to her, nothing had. Just another entitled patient who thought money bought respect. June Sok didn't sleep at all. He sat in the hospital room long after Brielle left, staring at his forearm where her fingers had made contact. The sensation was gone now. Back to the familiar numbness that defined the last year of his life. But for those 3 seconds, he'd felt something. Real, undeniable, terrifying. His phone buzzed. Min Jae Park, his second in command. Boss, security reported an incident. Should we handle the nurse? No, June Sok said quickly. Too quickly. Silence on the other end. Understood, Min Jae finally replied, confusion clear in his voice. June Sok ended the call. He needed answers, medical answers, not the kind that involved making problems disappear. By dawn, June Sok had 3 doctors standing in his penthouse. All specialists, all discreet, all paid enough to forget this conversation ever happened. Run every test again, June Sok ordered. Everything. The lead physician, Dr. Kim, adjusted his glasses nervously. Mr. Kong, we've conducted extensive evaluations. The nerve damage from the accident is permanent. There's no physiological explanation for temporary sensation unless what? Dr. Kim hesitated. Psychological triggers can sometimes create the illusion of sensation. The mind is powerful. If you believed something would work, your brain might manufacture a response that feels real. June Sok's jaw tightened. I don't believe in anything. Run the tests. 4 hours later, the results confirmed what June Sok already knew. Nothing changed. Physically, he remained exactly as damaged as before. The doctors left with their payments and their NDAs. June Sok stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Los Angeles, mind racing. If the reaction wasn't medical, what was it? He replayed the moment obsessively. Her hands, cool against his skin, confident, no hesitation, no fear. That's what made her different. Every woman who'd touched him in the past year carried pity or performance. Trying too hard, faking desire for a man they knew couldn't respond. Brielle hadn't been trying at all. She fixed an IV line. That's it. No agenda, no act, just competence. Maybe that's why his body reacted. Or maybe he was losing his mind. June Sok pulled out his phone and made a call. I need a full background check. Brielle Carter, nurse at Pacific Crest Medical Wing. I want everything by tonight. The file arrived 6 hours later. June Sok sat in his home office, whiskey untouched on the desk, reading through Brielle Carter's life. 28 years old, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Single mother died 2 years ago from complications related to diabetes. No siblings, no criminal record, no social media presence worth tracking. Nursing degree from Georgia State University. Graduated with honors despite working 2 jobs. Student loans still being paid off. Moved to Los Angeles 3 months ago. No clear reason why. Just packed up and left. The report included photos. Brielle at the hospital in scrubs. Brielle leaving a grocery store. Brielle walking into a West Hollywood boutique called Ayanna Atelier. In every photo, the same expression. Calm, unbothered, present. June Sok stared at one image longer than the others. Brielle standing outside her apartment building, coffee in hand, looking up at the morning sky like she had all the time in the world. No fear, no hustle, no desperation, just existing. When was the last time June Sok existed without calculating angles? He couldn't remember. His phone buzzed. Min Jae. Meeting with the downtown suppliers in an hour. You coming? June Sok closed the file on Brielle Carter. On my way, he typed back. But as he stood to leave, he glanced at the photo one more time. Her fingers had touched him for 3 seconds. And his body had responded for the first time in a year. Coincidence. That's what he told himself. But deep down, June Sok Kong knew the truth. He needed to see her again. 3 days passed. June Sok told himself he wouldn't go looking for her. He had an empire to run. Territories to protect. Rivals who watched for any sign of weakness. A nurse who touched his arm for 3 seconds shouldn't occupy any space in his mind. But every night, alone in the penthouse, he replayed that moment. Her fingers, the heat, the impossible response. By the 4th day, June Sok stopped pretending he could ignore it. Ayanna Atelier sat on a quiet street in West Hollywood. High-end boutique. Exclusive clientele. The kind of place where appointments were required and price tags didn't exist because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. June Sok's business meeting with the owner, Ayanna Moore, was legitimate. She ran a clean operation but moved enough cash through the boutique to make certain financial arrangements beneficial for both parties. Money laundering wrapped in Italian silk and French leather. That's what June Sok told himself he was there to discuss. The fact that Brielle Carter had been photographed entering this boutique twice in the past week was pure coincidence. Ayanna met him at the door personally. Tall, elegant, sharp enough to read a room in seconds. Mr. Kong, she said with a professional smile. Always a pleasure. The quarterly arrangement, June Sok said. We need to discuss adjustments. Of course. My office is in the back. As Ayanna led him through the boutique, June Sok's eyes scanned the space. Racks of designer clothing, mannequins dressed in outfits that cost more than cars, soft music playing overhead, and there, near the inventory room in the back, sorting through boxes. Brielle. She wore jeans and a plain white t-shirt. Hair pulled back, no makeup, completely focused on organizing accessories into labeled containers. She hadn't noticed him yet. June Sok's chest tightened. The reaction was immediate, stronger than before. Heat flooding through his body. Heart rate spiking. Blood rushing places it hadn't gone in over a year. Impossible. Ayanna was still talking about quarterly percentages and shipment schedules, but June Sok couldn't hear a word. Then Brielle looked up. Their eyes locked. Recognition flashed across her face. Not fear. Just mild surprise, like running into someone from work at the grocery store. She gave a small nod, polite, nothing more, and went back to sorting accessories. That was it. No reaction, no nervousness, no awareness that she'd just caused a physical response that hadn't happened in 12 months. June Sok turned abruptly toward the door. Reschedule the meeting, he said to Ayanna. I'm sorry? Something came up. We'll talk next week. He walked out before she could respond. Security followed June Sok to the SUV, confusion written all over their faces. Sir, are you? Drive, June Sok ordered. The vehicle pulled away from the boutique. June Sok sat in the back seat, breathing hard, hands clenched into fists. This wasn't psychological. This wasn't coincidence. Every time he saw her, his body responded. Not gradually. Instantly. Like she flipped a switch doctors said was permanently broken. But she didn't even know. She looked at him the same way she looked at everyone else. No fear. No fascination. No game. That's what terrified him most. Brielle Carter had no idea she was the only woman in the world who could make him feel like a man again. That night, June Sok destroyed a glass coffee table in his penthouse. Fist through the surface. Blood and shattered glass across white marble floors. Security rushed in. Min Jae right behind them. Boss, what happened? Jun Sok stood in the wreckage, chest heaving. Call the doctors again, he said quietly. We just ran tests 4 days ago. Call them, now. Dr. Kim arrived within the hour. More tests. More questions. More uncomfortable examinations. The results were identical to every test before. Permanent nerve damage. No physiological change. No medical explanation. Mr. Kong, Dr. Kim said carefully, if you're experiencing sensations in specific circumstances, we need to explore psychological triggers. Perhaps therapy. Jun Sok laughed. Cold. Humorless. Get out. Dr. Kim gathered his equipment quickly and left. Alone again, Jun Sok sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his hands. Brielle Carter's face filled his mind. The way she looked at him. Through him. Past the reputation and the fear and the power. Like he was just another patient with a kinked IV line. Maybe that's all it took. Someone who didn't see the monster. Someone who saw nothing special at all. Jun Sok pulled out his phone. The background report on Brielle was still open. He scrolled to her work schedule at Pacific Crest Medical Wing. Night shifts. Thursday through Monday. He began making calls. Private medical contracts. Routing through Pacific Crest. Charity donations to specific departments. Generous enough to ensure Brielle Carter's shifts stayed consistent. Surveillance teams assigned to monitor Ayanna Atelier from across the street. Not threats. Just information. He needed to understand what she was. And why she was the only cure for something doctors called incurable. The ambush happened on Melrose Avenue at 11:47 p.m. Jun Sok was leaving a meeting with suppliers when gunfire shattered the night. 3 vehicles, 8 gunmen, coordinated attack. His security returned fire, but the element of surprise belonged to the enemy. A blade caught Jun Sok between the ribs before his driver could pull him into cover. Pain exploded through his side. Blood soaked through his shirt instantly. Hospital, his lead security shouted into the radio. We need. No, Jun Sok gasped. Hospitals meant questions. Police reports. Exposure. Rivals would smell blood in the water. Sir, you're bleeding. Drive. The SUV tore through West Hollywood streets. Jun Sok pressed his hand against the wound, feeling warmth spreading across his ribs. Not fatal. He'd survived worse, but bad enough that staying conscious required focus. They passed restaurants, bars, closed storefronts. Then Jun Sok saw it. Ayanna Atelier. Lights still on inside. Someone working late. Stop the car. Boss, we need to get you. Stop. The car. The SUV pulled to the curb. Jun Sok pushed the door open and stumbled out before security could stop him. Each step sent fire through his ribs. He reached the boutique door and pounded on the glass. Inside, Brielle looked up from inventory paperwork. She saw a man covered in blood collapsing against the boutique entrance. Recognition hit a second later. The hospital patient. The one with the attitude and the dangerous eyes. Now bleeding all over Ayanna's front door. Brielle rushed to unlock it. What happened? Jun Sok practically fell through the doorway. Lock it, he managed. Behind me. Brielle hesitated for half a second, then turned the deadbolt. Outside, the black SUV idled at the curb. Security looked ready to storm inside. Jun Sok waved them off through the glass. They didn't move. Go, he mouthed. I'm fine. Reluctantly, the SUV pulled away. Jun Sok collapsed onto a velvet bench near the changing rooms. Blood immediately stained the expensive fabric. Brielle grabbed her phone. I'm calling 911. No hospitals, Jun Sok said through clenched teeth. No police. You're bleeding out in a boutique. I've had worse. Brielle looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth in his face. This man had survived worse. Multiple times. The scars on his arms at the hospital hadn't been accidents. Why come here? She demanded. Jun Sok met her eyes. Because trust doesn't exist in my world, he said quietly. Except here. Something in his voice made Brielle lower the phone. She thought about the hospital encounter. The way he'd reacted when she touched him. Not violently, almost vulnerable. Against every reasonable instinct, she made a choice. Ayanna keeps a first aid kit in the back office. Don't bleed to death before I get back. Brielle returned with supplies and a bottle of vodka from Ayana's personal stash. She helped June Sok out of his ruined jacket and shirt. The wound wasn't as deep as the blood made it look. Knife slash across the ribs. Painful but not life-threatening if cleaned properly. Her hands shook slightly as she opened the first aid kit. Nursing school prepared her for trauma. Nothing prepared her for treating a man who looked like he could kill with his bare hands but sat quietly letting her work. "This is going to hurt," Brielle said. "Everything hurts." She poured vodka over the wound. June Sok inhaled sharply but didn't make a sound. Brielle began cleaning the gash, her fingers steady despite her racing heart. Scar after scar covered his torso. Bullet wounds, blade marks, burns, a life written in violence. She didn't look away. "You live like this?" she asked quietly. "I survive like this." "That's not the same thing." June Sok's eyes found hers. "No, it's not." The silence between them felt heavy. Brielle stitched the wound with supplies meant for torn clothing, not human skin. Her fingers brushed his ribs as she worked. June Sok's breath hitched. Not from pain. From the same impossible sensation that kept bringing him back to her. Heat. Response. Life. Brielle noticed his reaction but said nothing. She finished the last stitch and taped gauze over the wound. "You need actual medical attention," she said. "This is temporary. Temporary works." Brielle sat back on her heels, studying him. "Who are you really?" June Sok pulled his ruined shirt back on carefully. "Someone who makes bad decisions. Like bleeding in a boutique? Like thinking 3 seconds of feeling alive is worth dying for." The words hung between them. Brielle didn't understand what he meant. But something in his eyes made her chest tighten. "You should go," she said softly. "Before Ayana gets here and sees the mess." June Sok stood slowly, testing his balance. "Thank you." 2 words. Simple. Genuine. Brielle nodded. He walked to the door, then stopped. "The IV line you fixed," June Sok said without turning around. "You probably saved my life that night too. You just didn't know it." Before Brielle could respond, he was gone. She stood alone in the boutique, surrounded by blood-stained velvet and the lingering scent of vodka. Her hands were still shaking. Not from fear. From something she couldn't name. June Sok returned to the boutique 3 nights later. Not bleeding this time. Not ambushed. Not running from anything except the truth he couldn't ignore anymore. Brielle was closing up when she saw him standing outside the glass door. She should have kept walking. Locked the door. Called security. Instead, she let him in. "Your stitches holding?" Brielle asked. June Sok nodded. "Saw a real doctor. Told him I fell on broken glass." "Did he believe you?" "Doctors believe whatever you pay them to believe." Brielle crossed her arms, leaning against the checkout counter. "Why are you here?" June Sok took a step closer. "I need to understand something." "Understand what?" "Why you?" Brielle's eyebrows raised. "Why me what?" June Sok struggled with words that didn't come naturally. "A year ago, a car accident left me damaged. Permanently, according to every specialist in Los Angeles. I've tried everything. Spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. Nothing worked." Brielle stayed quiet, listening. "Then you touched my arm for 3 seconds," June Sok continued. "And I felt something I haven't felt since the crash. Every time I see you, it happens again. Stronger." Understanding crossed Brielle's face. "You think I'm some kind of miracle cure?" "I don't know what you are." Brielle shook her head slowly. "I'm a nurse who fixed your IV. That's it. Whatever you're feeling is psychological, not physical." The doctors said the same thing. "Then maybe listen to them." June Sok moved closer. "I've listened to doctors for 12 months. They're wrong. Or you're obsessing over a coincidence." "This isn't coincidence." The air between them felt charged. Brielle should have been afraid. Every instinct screamed danger. This man carried violence like other people carried car keys. But she wasn't afraid. She was curious. "What do you want from me?" Brielle asked. "The truth." "Which truth?" "Whether I'm broken or just waiting for the right person to prove the doctors wrong." The kiss happened before either of them planned it. June Sok closed the distance. Brielle didn't pull away. His hand cupped her face. Her fingers gripped his jacket. The kiss was brief. Electric. World-ending. When they separated, both were breathing hard. June Sok's entire body responded. Not imagination. Not coincidence. Not psychological tricks. Real. Undeniable. Impossible. His eyes widened with something close to shock. Brielle saw it. Understood it. It's real, she whispered. June Sok leaned his forehead against hers, hands trembling. I don't understand how. Maybe understanding isn't the point. He pulled her closer, kissing her again. Deeper this time. Desperate. Brielle's back pressed against the counter. His hands traveled down her sides, mapping territory that felt sacred and dangerous at the same time. She broke the kiss, breathing hard. We can't do this here. Then where? Brielle looked at him, really looked at this dangerous man who somehow became vulnerable the moment she touched him. Nowhere. Not tonight. Not until you tell me the truth about who you are and what I'm walking into. June Sok stepped back, jaw tight. You don't want to know. Then we stop right here. They stared at each other across 3 feet of boutique floor. June Sok made his choice. My name is June Sok Kong. I run the West Coast Korean Syndicate. People fear me because I've given them reasons to. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on violence and control. He paused. And for the first time in my life, none of that matters. Because the only power I want is the kind you have over me. Brielle absorbed his words. She should run, disappear, change her name and leave California. Instead, she kissed him. Outside the boutique, across the street in an unmarked sedan, a camera clicked. Photographs captured everything through the window. The kiss, the intimacy, the vulnerability. A voice spoke into a radio. Confirmed. Target has identified weakness. Upload to secure server. The response crackled back. Han Sung Collective confirms receipt. Authorization to proceed with Phase 2. By morning, Brielle Carter's name appeared in databases it never should have reached. Criminal networks. Intelligence feeds. Offshore accounts tracking syndicate movements. Someone started digging into her past. Atlanta records. Hospital employment. Financial history. They found something interesting. A sealed adoption file in Fulton County, Georgia. Child registered under Brielle Carter's maiden name, Miles Carter. Age, 4 years old. Current location. Flagged in an offshore database connected to foster care systems. June Sok never asked Brielle about children. He already knew. The background check 3 weeks ago had uncovered everything. A son given up at 16. Closed adoption. Records sealed by court order. Brielle spent years searching for him through legal channels that went nowhere. Now June Sok had resources she didn't. He could find Miles Carter in 72 hours. The obsession wasn't just desire anymore. It was legacy. It was family. It was the life he never thought he'd have. Brielle tried to leave Los Angeles 2 days later. Booked a flight back to Atlanta. Needed distance. Needed clarity. The flight was cancelled. Mechanical issues. She booked another airline. Same result. Her bank account showed holds on transactions. Hospital called saying her contract was under review. Nothing violent. Nothing obvious. Just doors closing everywhere she turned. Then a text arrived from an unknown number. You woke something that refuses to sleep. Brielle stared at her phone, heart racing. She knew exactly who sent it. Brielle stood in the doorway of June Sok's penthouse overlooking downtown Los Angeles. She hadn't been invited. She'd demanded the address from Ayanna, who tried to talk her out of coming. Whatever you think you're doing, Ayanna had warned, men like him don't let go once they have you. Brielle came anyway. The penthouse door was unlocked. Security let her pass without question, like they'd been expecting her. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city lights below. Minimalist furniture. Expensive art. Everything cold and controlled. June Sok stood near the windows, back to her. Cancelled flights, Brielle said. Frozen accounts. Contract reviews. That was you. Yes. No apology. No excuse. This isn't love, Brielle continued, voice steady despite her anger. This is control. June Sok turned to face her. This is survival. And you are the only truth left. Truth? You're trapping me. He stepped closer. I'm keeping you alive. From what? From people who now know you're the one thing in this world I can't afford to lose. Brielle's hands clenched into fists. I didn't ask for this. I fixed an IV line. That's all. And changed everything. So you destroy my life? I protect it. The words hung between them. Brielle wanted to scream. Walk out. Disappear. But standing here, seeing the desperation behind his eyes, she understood something worse. He wasn't lying. Who's watching me? She asked quietly. Rivals. Han Sung Collective. They've been tracking syndicate movements for months. The moment I showed weakness, they recorded it. Now they know what you mean to me. What I mean to you. We kissed once. Jun Sok moved closer, stopping just inches away. You gave me back something doctors said was gone forever. Not just physically. The ability to feel anything beyond anger and emptiness. That's not just a kiss. That's resurrection. Brielle's breath caught. I'm not your savior. No. You're worse. Your hope. The silence stretched. Brielle should leave. Run. Fight back. Instead, she asked the question burning in her chest. How long have you known about Miles? Jun Sok didn't flinch. 3 days after we met. Background check found the adoption records. Pain flashed across Brielle's face. You've been watching me this whole time knowing about my son? I've been protecting you this whole time because of your son. Han Sung found him too. They know where he is. And they know he's leverage. Brielle's legs nearly gave out. Jun Sok caught her arm, steadying her. Miles is safe, he said quickly. I have people watching the foster family in Atlanta. Nobody gets near him. You have people watching my son? Would you rather Han Sung take him first? The logic was terrible. The logic was sound. Brielle pulled away, pacing the penthouse. This is insane. I came to Los Angeles for a fresh start. I'm a nurse. I don't belong in your world. You didn't choose this world. It chose you the second you walked into that hospital room. Then unchoose me. Let me go. Jun Sok's jaw tightened. I can't. Can't or won't? Both. Brielle stopped pacing, facing him directly. Why? He closed the distance between them, hands framing her face. Because for 12 months, I've been dead inside. Doctors confirmed it. Reality proved it. Then you touched me, and I felt alive for the first time since the accident. Not because of magic. Because you looked at me like I was human, not a monster. His thumbs brushed her cheeks. Every woman I've been with since the crash looked at me with pity or performance. You looked at me with annoyance and competence. Like I was just another patient being difficult. That's what broke through. Brielle's eyes searched his. So what now? You keep me prisoner in luxury? I keep you safe until I eliminate the threat. And if you can't, then we disappear together. You, me, and Miles. New identities. New life. Somewhere they'll never find us. You'd give up your empire? Jun Sok's answer was immediate. I'd burn it down myself if it meant keeping you alive. The kiss was different this time. Not urgent. Not desperate. Inevitable. Brielle pulled him closer, fingers tangling in his hair. His hands slid down her back, pulling her against him. Every nerve in his body responded. Real. Undeniable. Impossible becoming possible. They moved toward the bedroom, shedding clothes between kisses. No words needed. Just two people choosing each other despite every logical reason not to. Later, tangled in sheets with the city glowing outside, Brielle traced the scar across his ribs. The stitches held, she murmured. You do good work. She looked up at him. Promise me something. Anything. Promise you'll protect Miles even if it costs me. Jun Sok's hand covered hers. It'll cost them. The emergency meeting happened at dawn in a downtown warehouse. 20 syndicate leaders surrounded a steel table. Jun Sok sat at the head, face unreadable. Min Jae Park stood behind him, hand resting near his concealed weapon. Daniel Cho, the allied fixer, spoke first. Footage leaked on the dark web 2 nights ago. You and the nurse. At the boutique. The kiss. Everything. He slid a tablet across the table. Jun Sok didn't look at it. I've seen it. Then you know what this means, another leader said. Han Sung Collective is circulating it everywhere. You showed vulnerability. Weakness. I showed humanity. Same thing in our world. The room murmured agreement. Daniel Cho leaned forward. Territory agreements are already falling apart. 3 suppliers called this morning questioning whether you're still capable of leading. The San Diego faction is talking about breaking off entirely. Jun Sok's expression didn't change. Let them talk. Boss, Min Jae said quietly. This is serious. They're questioning your authority. My authority comes from results, not perception. An older leader, Park Jin-ho, spoke up. Respect comes from fear. Fear comes from strength. That footage makes you look mortal. Mortal men don't lead syndicates. They get replaced. June Sok stood slowly. The room fell silent. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Anyone who questions that answers to bullets. Is that clear enough? Park Jin-ho didn't back down. You're choosing a woman over the empire your father built. My father built this empire on violence and died alone in a federal prison. I'm choosing differently. Then you're choosing to lose everything. June Sok's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. I've already lost everything that mattered. She gave it back. The syndicate can adjust or dissolve. I don't care which. Half the room stood and walked out. No threats. No arguments. Just 20 years of alliances crumbling in real time. Min Jae waited until the warehouse cleared before speaking. Boss, we just lost 40% of our distribution network. I know. San Diego, Orange County, and half of Long Beach are gone. That's millions in monthly revenue. I know. Then why? Because I'm tired, Min Jae. Tired of being feared instead of respected. Tired of building power with no purpose. She's the first person in a decade who looked at me and saw something worth saving. Min Jae was quiet for a long moment. What do you need me to do? Find out where Han Sung is holding their next meeting. I want names, locations, weaknesses. You're going after them directly? They made this personal. I'm finishing it. Brielle's phone rang at 9 a.m. Ayana, voice shaking. They were here. Who was where? At the boutique. 3 men. Korean. Asked questions about you. How long we've been friends. Where you live. Where you work. Brielle's blood went cold. What did you tell them? Nothing. But Brie, they knew things. They knew about Miles. The phone nearly slipped from Brielle's hand. What about Miles? They said he's leverage. Asked if I knew what that meant. Brielle ended the call and immediately dialed June Sok. He answered on the first ring. They went to Ayana, Brielle said, voice tight. They mentioned Miles. I know. I have people on the way to Atlanta right now. What people? People who will make sure your son stays safe. I want to talk to him. Not yet. Any contact creates a trail. We move him first, then you talk. Move him where? Somewhere Han Sung will never think to look. Brielle's hands shook. This is my son we're talking about. And he's the only leverage they have against you. Which makes him a target. Let me protect him. By kidnapping him? By saving him before they do. That afternoon, Brielle showed up at June Sok's penthouse unannounced. Security tried to stop her. She pushed past them. June Sok was on the phone when she stormed in. He ended the call immediately. You don't get to make decisions about my son without me, Brielle said, voice shaking with rage. I'm making decisions that keep him alive. He doesn't even know who I am. I gave him up at 16 because I couldn't provide for him. Now you want to rip him away from the only family he knows? The family he knows is under surveillance by people who kill for a living. So what's your plan? Take him and raise him in this world? Around violence and guns and syndicate wars? June Sok grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. My plan is to get him somewhere safe, eliminate the threat, and give you the choice you never had. To be his mother without fear. Tears burned Brielle's eyes. You don't get to be the hero here. I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to fix the damage I caused by being careless enough to let them see what you mean to me. She shoved him. Hard. He barely moved. She shoved him again, fury and fear pouring out. I hate you for this. I know. I hate that you're right. I know that too. Brielle collapsed against his chest, fists pressed against him. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her while she broke. I won't let them take anything else from you, June Sok whispered. I promise. A courier arrived at the penthouse 3 hours later. Package marked urgent. Inside, Miles's birth certificate. Recent surveillance photos of a 4-year-old boy playing in an Atlanta backyard. And a note typed on plain paper. Exchange. The woman for the child's location. You have 72 hours. Han Sung Collective. June Sok read it twice. Then handed it to Brielle. Her face went white. They already have him. Brielle booked a flight to Atlanta using cash and a fake ID she didn't know she had. Ayana provided both without asking questions. She left a note on June Sok's kitchen counter while he was on a call with Min Jae in the other room. This isn't your war. It's mine. By the time June Sok found the note, Brielle was already at LAX. He called her 15 times. She didn't answer. Min Jae stood in the penthouse doorway. Boss? June Sok crumpled the note in his fist. Find her. Now. Check every flight to Atlanta. Ground them if you have to. We don't have that kind of reach anymore. Half the network walked out yesterday. June Sok grabbed his phone and started making calls. Syndicate connections, tech operatives, street informants. Every resource he still controlled went active. The hunt for Brielle became the hunt for Miles. Brielle landed in Atlanta 4 hours later. She took an Uber to Decatur, to the address from the adoption file June Sok's people had uncovered weeks ago. A modest house, chain link fence, toys scattered in the front yard. The family who adopted Miles lived here. Brielle's heart pounded as she knocked on the door. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. A neighbor came out onto the porch next door. Older woman. Suspicious eyes. They're gone, the neighbor said. Gone where? Don't know. Korean man in a black SUV came this morning. Took the boy. Family looked scared but went along with it. Brielle's legs nearly gave out. How long ago? 3 hours. Maybe 4. 3 hours. She was too late. Brielle sat on the curb outside the empty house, phone in her hand. She finally called June Sok back. He answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? Atlanta. The house is empty. Someone took Miles. Silence on the other end. Then, Korean man. Black SUV. Yes. How did you? That wasn't Han Sung. Brielle's breath caught. What? That was Min Jae. Acting on my orders. Miles is already on a private jet to Los Angeles. The world tilted. You used me as bait? I used you as distraction. Han Sung was watching you. While they tracked your movements to Atlanta, my people extracted Miles from the actual location. The actual location? This wasn't where he was. This was the decoy house. I've known Miles's real location for 2 weeks. Foster family was relocated to Sacramento after Han Sung started surveillance. The Decatur house was staged to draw them out. Brielle couldn't breathe. Rage, relief, betrayal, all crashing together. You manipulated me. I protected him. By lying? By keeping Han Sung focused on the wrong target while we moved the real one. Brielle stood, pacing the empty street. I want to see him. Right now. Come home. He's waiting. Los Angeles isn't home. Wherever you and Miles are, that's home. Brielle's phone buzzed with an incoming video call. Unknown number. She answered. The screen filled with Miles's face. 4 years old. Brown eyes. Confused expression. Hi, a small voice said. Brielle's eyes filled with tears. Hi, baby. Are you my mama? The question destroyed her. Yes, I am. Behind Miles, the camera shifted. June Sok's face appeared. He's safe. Unharmed. Asking questions about you. Brielle wanted to scream at him. Thank him. Collapse. Let me talk to him. June Sok handed the phone to Miles. Mama's coming to see you soon, Brielle managed through tears. I promise. Okay. Mr. June says you're nice. Mr. June talks too much. Miles giggled. The screen went black. A new text arrived. Not from June Sok. Different number. The jet waiting for you at Heartfelt Jackson isn't his. It's ours. Come alone, or the boy dies anyway. Han Sung. Brielle stared at the message. Her heart stopped. She called June Sok back immediately. They know Miles is in Los Angeles. They're offering me a choice. Get on their jet or they kill him. Don't get on any jet. I'm sending. How many people do you have left who are loyal? 10? 5? Han Sung has an entire organization. Brielle, listen to me. I'm getting on that jet. Track me if you can. But I'm not gambling with my son's life. She ended the call, blocked his number, and headed to the airport. Heartfelt Jackson International Airport. Private aviation terminal. 2 jets sat on the tarmac. One with June Sok's syndicate emblem barely visible on the tail. One unmarked. Both identical otherwise. Brielle stood between them. No way to know which was real. A coin flip could cost Miles's life. Her phone rang. Ayana. Don't trust either jet. I'm sending a third option. Ayana, what? Gate 7. Commercial flight. Complimentary upgrade under a different name. Trust me. The call ended. A flight attendant approached. Ms. Carter? Your upgrade is ready. Gate 7. Brielle looked at the 2 private jets. Then at the attendant. She made her choice. Brielle followed the flight attendant through Heartfelt Jackson's commercial terminal. Gate 7 was packed with business travelers and families. Normal people living normal lives. Nobody running from syndicates or gambling with their child's safety. The attendant handed Brielle a boarding pass. First class. Different name. Margaret Williams. Compliments of a friend, the attendant said with a knowing smile. Brielle boarded without looking back at the private terminals. The flight was 4 hours. Brielle couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop her mind from racing. Miles was in Los Angeles. June Sok promised he was safe. But promises from dangerous men came with conditions. She replayed the last month in her head. One hospital room, one IV line, one impossible connection. Now her son was caught in a war she didn't start. Brielle closed her eyes and remembered the last time she saw Miles. He was 6 months old. She was 16 and terrified. The social worker said it was for the best. Better family, better life, better future. Brielle signed the papers because she believed she had no choice. Now she had even fewer. The plane landed at a private airstrip 90 miles outside Los Angeles. Not LAX, not Burbank, somewhere in the desert. Brielle was the only passenger who got off there. A black SUV waited on the tarmac. The back door opened. June Sok stepped out, holding a small hand. Miles. Brielle ran. She dropped to her knees and pulled her son into her arms, tears streaming. Mama? Miles said, confused but not scared. Yes, baby. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm here now. She held him like letting go would kill her. June Sok stood a few feet away, giving them space. Then the sound of engines cut through the moment. 3 vehicles appeared on the horizon. Fast. Black. Unmarked. June Sok's expression changed instantly. Get in the SUV. Now. Brielle scooped Miles into her arms and dove into the back seat. June Sok slammed the door. Drive, he shouted to his security. But instead of getting in, he stayed outside. The approaching vehicles surrounded them in seconds. Doors opened. Armed men poured out. 12, maybe more. June Sok stood alone between them and the SUV. Weaponless. Brielle pounded on the window. What are you doing? He didn't turn around. One of the armed men stepped forward. Sung Min Han, the leader of Han Sung Collective. Older. Scarred. Eyes like ice. June Sok Kong, Sung Min said. You came alone. Brave or stupid? Neither. Strategic. Sung Min laughed. Strategic? You're surrounded. So are you. Sung Min's smile faded. That's when the second wave arrived. Min Jae Park and what remained of June Sok's loyal syndicate came from 3 directions. Not enough to win. Just enough to create chaos. Gunfire erupted. June Sok dropped to the ground, hands behind his head. Surrendering. The driver of Brielle's SUV hit the gas. No. Brielle screamed. Go back. Boss's orders. Get you and the kid out. The SUV tore away from the firefight. Brielle twisted in her seat, watching through the rear window. June Sok still on his knees. Sung Min standing over him. Then they were too far away to see anything. The SUV drove for 30 minutes before stopping at a safe house in the mountains. Min Jae was already there, somehow ahead of them. Blood on his shirt. Exhaustion in his eyes. Miles is secure, he told Brielle. The house is off-grid. No one knows this location. What about June Sok? Min Jae's silence was answer enough. They took him, Brielle said flatly. Boss knew it was the only way. You and Miles for him. He made the trade. Brielle's legs gave out. She sat hard on the floor, Miles clinging to her. Why would he do that? Min Jae crouched in front of her. Because he told me 2 days ago that if it came down to his life or yours, the choice was already made. That night, Brielle sat in the safe house with Miles asleep beside her. Min Jae showed her the dark web broadcast. Han Sung Collective streaming live. June Sok Kong kneeling in a warehouse. Hands bound. Blood running down his face. Sung Min Han addressed the camera. The king traded his empire for a woman. Romantic. Foolish. Fatal. He walked a slow circle around June Sok. We will trade his life for hers. The nurse has 12 hours to present herself. Location will be sent. If she refuses, the West Coast watches their leader die. The stream ended. Brielle stared at the black screen. Min Jae stood behind her. Boss's orders were clear. You don't negotiate. You disappear with Miles. New identities. New life. I already have the documents. Brielle shook her head slowly. He saved my son. He saved you both. Don't waste it. I'm not wasting it. I'm finishing it. She stood and grabbed her phone. What are you doing? Something he didn't plan for. Brielle dialed a number she'd memorized weeks ago. Detective Maria Santos. LAPD. Major Crimes. The detective who'd been hunting both syndicates for 3 years. Santos answered on the second ring. This is Brielle Carter. I'm ready to make a deal. Detective Maria Santos met Brielle at LAPD headquarters at 3 a.m. No uniforms, no backup, just the two of them in an interrogation room. Santos slid a file across the table. I've been building cases against both syndicates for 3 years. Witnesses disappear. Evidence vanishes. Judges get bought. I've gotten nowhere. Brielle opened the file. Photos of Jun Sok, Sung Min Han. Crime scenes. Bodies. What do you want from me? Everything. Names. Locations. Bank accounts. Supply routes. Enough to bring down Han Sung Collective permanently. In exchange for what? Immunity for you. Protection for your son. And 12 hours before I move. Brielle looked at the photos again. 12 hours to do what? Santos leaned back in her chair. Whatever you need to do. I'm a cop, but I'm not naive. Sometimes justice needs a push. The exchange location came through at dawn. Pacific Crest Private Medical Wing. Room V1209. The same hospital room where everything started. Sung Min Han chose it as mockery. Brielle chose to accept it as strategy. She knew that room, the layout, the exits, the medical equipment. If she was walking into a trap, at least it was familiar territory. Min Jae tried to stop her at the safe house. Boss gave explicit orders. You don't trade yourself. Your boss is about to die because of me. I'm fixing that. By getting yourself killed? Brielle strapped on the wire Santos provided. Hidden. Undetectable unless they stripped her down completely. By ending this, she looked at Miles, still sleeping on the couch. If I don't come back. You're coming back, Min Jae interrupted. Because I'm not raising a kid. Despite everything, Brielle almost smiled. Keep him safe. That's the only order I follow. Brielle walked into Pacific Crest Medical Wing at 8 a.m. Security didn't stop her. They were Han Sung's people now. She took the elevator to the 5th floor. The same path she'd walked a month ago when she was just a nurse checking on a patient in the wrong room. Now she was walking toward the man who'd destroyed and rebuilt her life. Room V1209's door was open. Inside, Jun Sok was tied to the hospital bed. Exactly where she'd first found him. Blood dried on his face. Bruises darkening his ribs. But alive. Conscious. Their eyes met. His widened in horror. He shook his head frantically. Don't do this. Sung Min Han stood near the window, arms crossed. 2 guards flanked the door. The nurse arrives, Sung Min said. Punctual. Admirable. Brielle stepped inside. Let him go. Direct. I appreciate that. Sung Min walked a slow circle around her. You came alone. No police. No syndicate backup. Just a woman trading herself for a man who built an empire on violence. He's not that man anymore. Because of you? Because he chose differently. Sung Min stopped in front of her. Kneel. Brielle didn't move. I said kneel. Beg for his life. On camera. Let the world see the great Jun Sok Kong saved by a woman's tears. Brielle glanced at Jun Sok. He mouthed one word. Run. Instead, she walked past Sung Min to the hospital bed. Ignoring the guards. Ignoring the guns. She adjusted the IV pole. The same motion that started everything. What are you doing? Sung Min demanded, reminding him why he survives. Her fingers brushed Jun Sok's wrist as she straightened the kinked line. She palmed the scalpel she'd hidden under the tape earlier. Their eyes communicated everything. Trust. Timing. One chance. Sung Min grabbed her shoulder, yanking her back. You mock me? No. I remind you that love isn't weakness. It's the only thing you never figured out. Sung Min raised his gun. Before he could fire, the windows exploded. Glass shattered inward. Min Jae Park and the remaining loyal syndicate crashed through from the fire escape. Chaos erupted. Gunfire. Shouting. Bodies colliding. Jun Sok used the scalpel to cut his restraints. Brielle dropped behind the hospital bed. Bullets tore through medical equipment. One of Sung Min's guards went down. Then another. Sung Min himself made it to the door. Min Jae pursued. The firefight spilled into the hallway. Jun Sok pulled Brielle close, shielding her with his body. You should have run, he said. I don't take orders from broken kings. He kissed her, hard, desperate. Then help me stay whole. Outside the room, sirens wailed. Detective Santos and LAPD SWAT were 60 seconds away. The livestream was still broadcasting. Millions watching the Korean syndicate war explode in real time. Sung Min escaped through the service elevator. Min Jae right behind him. Jun Sok grabbed Brielle's hand. We have 60 seconds before cops breach this room. Where do we go? Down. He pulled her toward the medical waste chute. The same route she'd used countless times during shifts. They dropped into darkness together, landing hard in the disposal room. The door to the parking garage was 20 feet away. They ran. Min Jae waited in an SUV, engine running. Han Sung scattered. So did our people. The syndicate is finished. Jun Sok slid into the backseat with Brielle. For the first time in years, he felt relief. Good. Let it die. Detective Santos entered room V1209 with SWAT 90 seconds too late. Hospital bed empty. Restraints cut. Blood on the floor. Windows shattered. 2 bodies. Both Han Sung guards. The surveillance feed showed everything. The kiss. The escape. The medical waste chute. Santos replayed the footage 3 times. She'd given Brielle 12 hours. Brielle used 11 to save the man who was supposed to be her target. Do we pursue? A SWAT officer asked. Santos watched the screen one more time. Brielle Carter adjusting an IV line with a scalpel hidden in her palm. Smart. Brave. Completely reckless. No, Santos said finally. They're not the priority. Han Sung Collective is. She pulled out her phone and made a call. This is Detective Santos. I'm authorizing full tactical deployment. Target. Sung Min Han. Warrants are active. Move now. The SUV stopped at Jun Sok's penthouse one last time. Not to stay. To collect what mattered. Min Jae kept the engine running. Jun Sok and Brielle had 10 minutes. Inside, the penthouse felt different. Less like a throne, more like a cage. Jun Sok opened the wall safe. Cash, passports, documents transferring legitimate business holdings. He handed Brielle 3 passports. Her face, Miles's face, his face, different names on all 3. You planned this? She asked. I planned for the possibility that staying meant dying. He pulled out another folder. Legal documents, business transfers, property deeds, all signed over to Ayanna Moore, Min Jae Park, and other names Brielle didn't recognize. What is this? Everything legitimate I ever built. Import business, real estate, investments. It goes to people who can run it without blood. You're just giving it away? I'm leaving it behind. Brielle watched him move through the penthouse, collecting nothing personal. No photos, no mementos, no attachments, just survival documents and cash. Do you regret it? She asked quietly. Jun Sok stopped. Regret what? All of this. The empire, the violence, the years spent being someone people feared. He turned to face her. I regret that it took losing everything to realize I never had anything worth keeping. Until you. A phone buzzed. Not Jun Sok's. Brielle's. Unknown number. She answered, heavy breathing on the other end. Then, you think this is over? Sung Min Han. Brielle's blood went cold. Where are you? Close enough. Tell Jun Sok I'm not done. Tell him empires don't die quietly. The line went dead. Before Brielle could speak, the penthouse elevator dinged. They weren't expecting anyone. Jun Sok pulled Brielle behind him, moving toward the kitchen where he kept a weapon stashed. The elevator doors opened. Sung Min Han stepped out. Alone. Bleeding from a shoulder wound. Gun in hand. Surprised? Sung Min said, you shouldn't be. I built this city's underground. You think I don't know every entrance to every building? Jun Sok positioned himself between Sung Min and Brielle. It's over. Your organization is scattered. Police are hunting you. Walk away while you still can. Sung Min laughed. Bitter. Exhausted. Walk away to what? I spent 40 years building power. No family. No legacy. Just fear and respect. You want to know the difference between us? He aimed the gun at Jun Sok. You found something worth more than the empire. I never did. Then don't take mine. Why not? If I can't have meaning, no one should. Sung Min's finger moved toward the trigger. Brielle stepped out from behind Jun Sok. Stop. Brielle, don't. She ignored Jun Sok, walking slowly toward Sung Minimum. You're right. You built everything alone. That's why you're here alone. Bleeding. Desperate. With nothing left to lose. Sung Min's hand trembled. Don't pretend to understand me. I understand choosing violence because it's easier than vulnerability. But you're not here to kill us. You're here because you want someone to tell you it wasn't all meaningless. It was meaningless. Then prove me wrong. Walk away. Choose different. For once, choose something that doesn't end in blood. Sung Min stared at her. Gun still raised. 30 seconds of silence. Then footsteps in the stairwell. Min Jae appeared in the doorway behind Sung Minimum. Not with a gun. With an envelope. Boss taught me something tonight, Min Jae said quietly. There's life after the syndicate. New identities. Offshore accounts. Clean start. He held out the envelope. Take it or don't. Sung Min looked at the envelope. Then at Jun Sok and Brielle. Then at the gun in his hand. He lowered it slowly. I wanted you to beg, Sung Min said to Jun Sok. To break. To prove you were weak. I am weak, Jun Sok replied. That's why I'm still alive. Sung Min dropped the gun on the floor. Took the envelope from Min Jae. And walked back to the elevator without another word. The doors closed. Brielle exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Jun Sok pulled her into his arms. That was the most dangerous thing you've ever done. It worked. It could have gotten you killed. But it didn't. Min Jae's phone buzzed. Police just raided Han Sung's main warehouse. Arrested 12 lieutenants. Sung Min's name is all over the warrant. He won't make it far, Jun Sok said. Maybe that's the point. Maybe he doesn't want to. They left the penthouse together. No looking back. No goodbyes to a life that never fit. Just 3 people driving towards something unnamed. They drove north for 3 hours. Away from Los Angeles. Away from the syndicate. Away from everything. Miles slept in the back seat, head resting on Brielle's lap. Min Jae drove in silence. Jun Sok stared out the window at the passing desert. Finally, Brielle spoke. What happens now? Jun Sok didn't answer immediately. Now we disappear. Where? Somewhere they'll never think to look. Min Jae glanced in the rearview mirror. Boss, Han Sung scattered. Our people scattered. The syndicate is finished. What's left to run from? Ghosts, Jun Sok said quietly. Revenge. People who remember what I built and want to claim it. Or, Min Jae countered, we accept that it's actually over. They stopped at a roadside motel outside Bakersfield. 2 rooms. Cash payment. No questions. Min Jae took the first room. Brielle, Jun Sok, and Miles took the second. Miles woke up confused. Where are we? Somewhere safe, Brielle said, brushing hair from his forehead. Are we going home? The question hung in the air. Brielle looked at Jun Sok. He crouched down to Miles's level. Do you know what home means? Miles thought about it. Where Mama is. Then wherever she is. That's home. That night, after Miles fell asleep, Brielle and Jun Sok sat outside on the motel balcony. The desert stretched endlessly under stars. I never asked if you wanted this, Jun Sok said. Wanted what? Me. This life. Running. Hiding. Starting over. Brielle was quiet for a long moment. A month ago, I wanted stability. A normal job. Normal problems. Maybe eventually a normal relationship. That's not what I gave you. No. You gave me chaos. Danger. A son I thought I'd never see again. And yourself. Broken. Complicated. Impossible. She turned to face him. But you also gave me a choice. Most men in your position would have just taken what they wanted. You asked. You waited. You let me walk away even when it terrified you. I tried to trap you. You tried to protect me. There's a difference. Jun Sok reached for her hand. I don't know how to be normal. Good. Normal men bore me. Despite everything, he smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen on his face. Not controlled. Not calculated. Just genuine. What now? He asked. Now we build something that doesn't require blood. Morning came with news. Min Jae knocked on their door holding his phone. Sung Min Han was arrested at the Canadian border. Detective Santos made a statement. Han Sung Collective is officially dismantled. Federal charges. RICO violations. He's not getting out. Brielle felt relief flood through her. It's really over? The organization is. But boss, there's something else. Jun Sok stood. What? Your name came up in the investigation. Santos isn't pursuing charges against you directly, but the feds want to question you about syndicate operations. When? They issued a summons for next month. You can comply or disappear permanently. June Sok looked at Brielle. She understood the choice immediately. Testify and face potential charges. Or vanish and never stop running. What do you want to do? She asked. I want to be someone Miles can be proud of. Then you know the answer. 2 weeks later, June Sok Kong walked into a federal building in downtown Los Angeles. Brielle waited outside with Miles and Min Jae. Detective Santos met them in the lobby. He's doing the right thing, Santos said. Will he go to prison? Depends on what he gives them. But between us, the feds want Han Sung leadership, not foot soldiers. If he cooperates fully, he might walk with probation and asset forfeiture. Asset forfeiture? Everything he owned through the syndicate gets seized. He'll walk out with nothing. Brielle looked through the glass doors at June Sok sitting across from federal agents. He already gave everything away. He has exactly what he wants. Santos followed her gaze. You really love him. I really do, even knowing what he's done. Brielle picked up Miles, holding him close. I love who he's choosing to become. 6 hours later, June Sok emerged. Exhausted, relieved, free. They're taking everything, he told Brielle. Bank accounts, properties, investments, all of it. What did they leave you? He pulled out a single envelope. Inside, 3 new social security cards, 3 birth certificates, 3 driver's licenses, clean identities, government issued, witness protection offered relocation, June Sok said. But I declined. I want to choose where we go. Brielle took his hand. Then let's choose together. That night, they drove north again. This time without looking back. Min Jae stayed in Los Angeles, taking over the legitimate businesses June Sok transferred to Ayana. The syndicate was history. The empire was ash. But 3 people in an SUV headed towards something new. Something unnamed. Something that didn't require violence to survive. They found a small coastal town in Northern California. Population 3,000. Tourist season summer only. Questions asked? None. June Sok rented a modest house 2 blocks from the ocean under his new name. David Chen. Brielle became Sarah Chen. Miles kept his first name. Changed his last. For the first time in their lives, they were nobody. Brielle found work at a community clinic within a week. The pay was a fraction of what Pacific Crest offered, but the patients were real people with real problems. No gangsters, no dangerous secrets, no luxury suites, just sick kids, elderly patients, and overworked parents who couldn't afford better care. It felt right. June Sok struggled more. Grocery shopping felt foreign. PTA meetings felt absurd. Neighborhood block parties felt like tactical nightmares where he assessed exits and threat levels. Old habits died hard. You're staring at the crosswalk like it's an ambush point, Brielle said one afternoon. June Sok blinked. Sorry. Still adjusting. To what? Safety? To not calculating survival every second. She took his hand. That's called living. You'll get used to it. Miles started kindergarten in September. June Sok walked him to school the first day. Other parents made small talk about weather and sports teams. Topics June Sok knew nothing about. He smiled, nodded, pretended to belong. At pickup, Miles ran to him with a drawing. Look, I made us. 3 stick figures holding hands. Labeled, Mama, Miles, Dad. June Sok stared at the word. Dad, is that okay? Miles asked, suddenly nervous. June Sok crouched down, eye level with the boy. It's more than okay. 2 months into their new life, a letter arrived. No return address. Postmarked Los Angeles. June Sok opened it carefully. Inside, a newspaper clipping and a handwritten note. The clipping showed Sung Min Han's federal sentencing. Life in prison without parole. The note was from Detective Santos. You kept your word. I kept mine. Don't come back. Santos. June Sok showed it to Brielle. It's really over, she said. Feels strange. What does? Winning without violence. Brielle kissed his cheek. That's the only kind of winning that matters. That night, June Sok couldn't sleep. He stood on their small porch, watching the ocean. Brielle joined him, wrapped in a blanket. What are you thinking about? Everything I did. Everyone I hurt. Whether I deserve this. Deserve what? Peace. You. Miles. A second chance. Brielle leaned against him. Deserving isn't the point. Choosing is. You chose differently. That's what matters. I chose you. That's the only choice that made sense. They stood in silence, listening to waves crash. Do you miss it? Brielle asked. The power? Any of it. June Sok considered the question honestly. I miss the certainty. Knowing who I was. What I controlled. Where I stood. And now? Now I'm terrified every day. That you'll realize I'm not worth it. That Miles will learn who I was. That someone from the past will find us. Fear means you care. That's progress. Is it enough? Brielle turned to face him. You walked away from an empire. Testified against your own world. Chose your son's safety over your pride. You're learning to be vulnerable instead of violent. She cupped his face. That's not just enough. That's everything. Christmas morning arrived cold and clear. Miles woke them at dawn, excited about presents under a small tree. Nothing expensive, just normal gifts for a normal family. Toys, books, clothes. Miles didn't care about price tags. He cared that they were all together. After presents, Brielle made breakfast while June Sok helped Miles build a toy car. The doorbell rang. June Sok tensed immediately. Old instincts. Brielle noticed. It's okay. I invited someone. She opened the door. Ayanna Moore stood there, smiling. Min Jae Park beside her, carrying gifts. Merry Christmas, Ayanna said. Thought you could use some friendly faces. Brielle hugged her tight. Min Jae nodded at June Sok. Boss. Not anymore. Old habits. They ate together, laughed, told stories that carefully avoided the violent parts. Miles showed everyone his new toys. For a few hours, they were just people. Not survivors, not former criminals, not witnesses, just friends around a table. Later, after Ayanna and Min Jae left, Brielle found June Sok staring at Miles's drawing on the refrigerator. The stick figure family. What are you thinking? She asked. That I spent 20 years building the wrong thing. You built what you thought mattered. And now? Brielle wrapped her arms around him from behind. Now you build what actually does. That night, after Miles fell asleep, Brielle and June Sok stood in their small bedroom. She traced the scars on his chest. These don't define you anymore. What does? This. Us. The choice to be here. He kissed her softly. I love you. 3 words he'd never said to anyone. Brielle smiled. I know. You gave up everything to prove it. Would do it again. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. They made love slowly, quietly. 2 people who'd survived war choosing peace instead. 6 months later, normalcy still felt like wearing someone else's clothes. June Sok worked at a local import shop. Legitimate business. Legal merchandise. Paperwork filed correctly. The owner, an elderly Korean man named Mr. Park, asked no questions about his past. You know shipping routes, Mr. Park said during the interview. That's all I need to know. The pay was modest. The work was honest. The hours were predictable. Everything June Sok spent 20 years avoiding. Some days, he caught himself calculating profit margins that didn't involve laundering money. Other days, he forgot he'd ever been anyone else. Brielle thrived. The community clinic promoted her to head nurse after 3 months. She built relationships with patients. Remembered their names. Actually cared about outcomes beyond paychecks. This was the nursing career she'd dreamed about in college. No violence. No secrets. No dangerous men bleeding on expensive furniture. Just medicine. Just helping. But trust remained hard. Every time June Sok came home late, her heart raced. Every unfamiliar car parked too long on their street triggered old fears. Every stranger who looked twice made her calculate escape routes. Trauma didn't disappear with geography. Miles adjusted fastest. Kindergarten became first grade. Friends multiplied. Sleepovers happened. One afternoon, he came home with a school project. We have to draw our family tree, Miles said, spreading papers across the kitchen table. Brielle's chest tightened. What did you tell your teacher? That I live with Mama and Dad. Is that wrong? June Sok looked at Brielle. She made the decision. That's exactly right. Miles drew 3 branches, labeled them carefully. When he finished, he looked up at June Sok. Are you my real dad? The question neither of them expected. June Sok knelt beside Miles's chair. I'm not your biological father. But I'm the man who will protect you and your mother for the rest of my life. If that makes me your dad, then yes. Miles thought about it seriously. Can I call you Dad? June Sook's throat tightened. I'd be honored. Miles smiled and went back to coloring. Like it was simple. Like biology didn't matter. Like choice was enough. Maybe it was. A letter arrived from Atlanta 2 weeks later. Return address. The family who'd adopted Miles. Brielle stared at the envelope for 20 minutes before opening it. Inside, a handwritten letter. Dear Brielle, we know you've been searching for Miles. We're so sorry. We were threatened into the adoption. A man told us if we didn't take Miles and disappear, he'd hurt our daughter. We've lived in fear for years. We heard the man was arrested. We want to meet you. We want Miles to know his full story. We want to apologize. If you're willing, we'd like to be part of his life. Not as replacements. As extended family. We loved him. We still do. But he deserves to know his mother. Please consider it. Rebecca and Marcus Thompson. Brielle showed the letter to June Sook. What do you think? He read it twice. I think they were victims too. And Miles deserves to know people who loved him when you couldn't be there. You're okay with this? I'm okay with whatever gives Miles the fullest life possible. They arranged a meeting at a park in Sacramento. Neutral ground. Public space. Safe. Rebecca and Marcus Thompson arrived with their daughter, Emma. Age 7. Shy smile. Miles recognized nothing. He'd been too young when they'd given him up. But Rebecca's eyes filled with tears the moment she saw him. He's so big. He's doing well, Brielle said carefully. They sat on park benches. Awkward. Emotional. Complicated. Marcus spoke first. We owe you an apology. We should have fought harder. Should have told someone. You protected your daughter, Brielle said. I understand that. Rebecca wiped her eyes. We told Miles stories about his brave mother who loved him so much she made the hardest choice. We never let him think he was unwanted. Brielle's composure cracked. Thank you. They talked for 2 hours. Miles and Emma played on the swings, unaware of the weight their parents carried. By the end, they'd exchanged numbers. Agreed to monthly visits. Decided Miles deserved a bigger family, not a divided one. Driving home, Miles asked questions. Why did they have me if you're my real mom? Brielle chose her words carefully. Because when you were born, I was very young and couldn't take care of you the way you deserved. They loved you when I couldn't be there. But you love me now? I've always loved you. I just couldn't be with you. Miles processed this. I'm glad you found me. Brielle's eyes burned. Me too, baby. From the driver's seat, June Sook reached over and squeezed her hand. They'd built something impossible. A family from broken pieces. That night, Brielle stood at Miles's bedroom door watching him sleep. June Sook joined her. You okay? I spent 5 years searching for him. Thought I'd never see him again. Now he's here. Safe. Calling you Dad. Meeting his adoptive family. Regrets? None. Just grateful. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders. We got lucky. No. We fought. There's a difference. 1 year after leaving Los Angeles, life looked almost normal. June Sook managed the import shop. Brielle ran the clinic. Miles thrived in 2nd grade. They attended school functions. Paid bills on time. Argued about normal things like whose turn it was to do dishes. But some nights, June Sook still woke up calculating threats that didn't exist. Some days, Brielle still checked over her shoulder for danger that never came. Trauma healed slowly. Sometimes not at all. Detective Santos called on a Tuesday morning. Brielle answered, heart immediately racing. Is everything okay? Relax. Just checking in. Sung Min Han died in prison 3 days ago. Heart attack. Natural causes confirmed. Brielle exhaled. Thank you for telling me. There's something else. Before he died, he wrote you a letter. Prison officials cleared it. Want me to send it? Yes. The letter arrived 4 days later. Brielle opened it alone while June Sook was at work and Miles was at school. Ms. Carter, I spent 40 years building an empire. Became the most feared man on the West Coast. Accumulated wealth, power, respect. I died with none of it. No family at my bedside. No friends. No legacy beyond violence. You showed me something I spent a lifetime avoiding. That choosing love over power isn't weakness. It's the only courage that matters. I didn't understand it until it was too late. June Sook Kong understood it in time. That's why he won. That's why I lost. Thank you for the mercy you showed me that night in the penthouse. I didn't deserve it, but it gave me something I never expected. Peace in my final moments. Sung Min Han. Brielle showed Jun Sok the letter that evening. He read it twice without speaking. Do you feel guilty? Brielle asked. For what? Surviving when he didn't. Jun Sok folded the letter carefully. No, I feel grateful that I chose differently before it was too late. Miles's school held a holiday play in December. Jun Sok and Brielle sat in the audience surrounded by other parents. PTA volunteers, soccer coaches, normal people living normal lives. Nobody knew who Jun Sok used to be. Nobody cared. Miles played a shepherd in the nativity scene. Forgot half his lines. Made the audience laugh anyway. Afterward, he ran to them, costume half falling off. Did you see me? We saw everything, Brielle said, hugging him tight. Miles looked up at Jun Sok. Was I good, Dad? Jun Sok crouched down. You were perfect. Walking to the car, a man approached from the parking lot. Jun Sok's body tensed automatically. Old instincts, old fears. The man was older, tired looking, hands visible, non-threatening. David Chen? The man asked, using Jun Sok's new name. Yes, I'm Jim Lawson. My daughter's in Miles's class. She talks about him constantly. Wanted to introduce myself. Jun Sok forced his shoulders to relax. Nice to meet you. They made small talk about school and weather and nothing important. Normal conversation, normal interaction, normal life. After Jim walked away, Brielle squeezed Jun Sok's hand. You okay? Getting better. One day you won't assume every stranger is a threat. One day. That night, after Miles fell asleep, Brielle found Jun Sok standing at the bedroom window. The same position he'd held a year ago in the penthouse. But this time, he was looking at the ocean instead of a city burning below. What are you thinking? She asked. That a year ago, I would have killed anyone who threatened what I'd built. Now I'm standing in a rented house, working a regular job, and I've never been happier. Brielle wrapped her arms around him from behind. Do you miss it? The power? He turned to face her. I miss who I thought I had to be. But I don't miss the man who couldn't feel anything beyond control. He pulled her close. You woke something that refuses to sleep. Brielle smiled against his chest. Good. Stay awake. They made love slowly that night. No urgency, no fear, no ghosts. Just two people choosing each other again. Afterward, tangled in sheets, Brielle traced the scar on his ribs. The one she'd stitched in the boutique a lifetime ago. You know what I realized? She said quietly. What? You were never broken. You were just waiting for someone who saw past the monster to the man underneath. Jun Sok kissed her forehead. And you were never just a nurse. You were the only person brave enough to tell a kingpin his attitude wouldn't fix his injuries. Best decision I ever made. Worst decision. Best outcome. Christmas morning came quietly. Miles woke them early. Presents were opened. Breakfast was made. Ayana and Min Jae drove up from Los Angeles with gifts and news. The boutique was thriving. Min Jae was managing security consultations legitimately. They were engaged. Look at us, Ayana said, raising a glass of sparkling cider. Reformed criminals and their enabling friends. Reformed adjacent, Min Jae corrected. Everyone laughed. Later, Brielle and Jun Sok stood on the beach with Miles. He built sandcastles while they watched the sunset. Do you think it's really over? Brielle asked. The syndicate? Yes. The past? It'll always be there. Does that scare you? Every day. But not enough to make me run. Brielle leaned into him. We made it. We did. Miles ran back to them, wet from the waves. Can we come back tomorrow? We live here, Jun Sok said. We can come back every day. Miles grinned and ran back to the water. Brielle took Jun Sok's hand. Thank you. For what? For choosing us over everything else. He squeezed her hand. Wasn't a choice. Was survival. You were the only truth left. They stood together, watching their son play in the ocean. The past behind them. The future uncertain. The present enough. Somewhere in Los Angeles, in a high-rise office overlooking the city, a woman closed a laptop. She'd been watching surveillance footage of a small coastal town. A man who used to be Jun Sok Kong. A woman who saved him. A child they protected. The woman smiled coldly. Her name was Ji Yin Han. Sung Min's younger sister. Big brother always was too soft at the end, she said to the empty room. Let's see if love survives round 2. She picked up her phone and made a call. Begin phase 1. I want everything on David Chen. Every weakness, every connection. And the woman? Especially the woman. If you want to know what happens when Ji Yeon Han comes for Brielle and Jun Sok's new life, subscribe to Tales by Wave so you don't miss the next. Did this story keep you on the edge of your seat? Hit that like button and let me know in the comments which moment shocked you the most.